You may have heard of legislation around sustainability that's passed this year that's having a significant impact on buildings in New York City. In our last video, Molly broke down Local Law 97, which puts a cap on how much carbon a building can emit. In this video, we're going to look 10 years out. What are some of the biggest opportunities to reduce energy consumption in buildings that you probably haven't even heard of, but that we need to think about now? Hi, I'm Gab Bisquier, Director of Smart Buildings here at JB&B. Let's say you've got a pretty efficient office building. You've got LED lights everywhere, you've installed variable frequency drives on all your pump and fan motors, you've got high efficiency electric centrifugal chiller, and you've got a great operating team. That's great news. You may even just barely get under the city's 2024 carbon limit for office buildings. Now here's the challenging bit. In 2030, that carbon emissions limit gets cut in half. Lighting and appliances are going to continue to get more efficient. What we really need to focus on is heating, cooling, and ventilating buildings. Those take up 50% of a building's energy use, and that percentage is just going to go up. 2030 sounds like a long way away. Think about how long you've had that chiller or boiler for, and how long that same tenant has been in a single space. The decisions we're making today on infrastructure are absolutely going to have an impact right when the carbon emissions limits are the most stringent. So if you want to meet that 2030 target, we're going to have to take a big chunk out of your energy consumption. In order to do that, we're going to have to rethink the fundamentals of heating, cooling, and ventilating office buildings. So here are some of the radical energy measures that do that. The first thermostat was invented in 1883. So for 140 years, that's been the state of the art for air conditioning. Now imagine an open office, 40 people at their desks. Some people run hot, some people run cold, but they're at the mercy of that one thermostat. Whoever can get all those people to agree on what the temperature setting should be should win the Nobel Peace Prize. So what if we did things a little differently? What if we gave each person control of their own personal airflow? We would make the overall space warmer to accommodate the person who runs the coldest, and we would allow the person who runs hot to be able to dial in that airflow to whatever amount they want. Air quality would improve because you would get that fresh air directly to where you need it, where you breathe in. And by having that average space temperature be warmer, we're actually saving energy over the course of the year because predominantly office buildings have to cool year-round. One of the things that drives me crazy about New York City office buildings is that they shoot heat right out through their cooling tower in the middle of winter. It's like having your window open while your radiator is on. The interior spaces of office buildings need to be cooled year-round because you've got people, you've got lights, you've got appliances that are all generating heat. That heat needs to go somewhere. At the same time, you're using fuel oil or natural gas or Con Ed steam to provide heat for the perimeter. So what if instead of rejecting that heat from the interior of the office building and just sending it out the cooling tower, we made use of it? We could use it to preheat outside air that we need to ventilate the building in the winter, or we could lift it to a higher temperature using heat pumps to serve the perimeter hot water systems. We did an analysis for one office building and found that 30% of their heating energy use could be reduced by recovering the energy that they were sending out through their cooling tower in the winter. We can use wastewater to more efficiently heat and cool buildings. People laugh at me when I say that, but it's true. Every drop of water that goes down the drain can be used to make HVAC more efficient. The idea is a lot like geothermal systems, which you might have heard of, which are used in less densely populated areas. Just like the soil deep underground, wastewater, water in the sewers, is actually fairly constant temperature year-round. So when it's freezing outside, since the wastewater is warmer than the outside air temperature, we can use it to run our heating systems more efficiently. So what if we diverted that sewer water into a wet well, then picked up that water, drove it through a heat exchanger that actually cleans itself, they've been using them for years for water treatment plants, and then transferred that heat to our mechanical systems. The wastewater doesn't actually touch the building systems, which is an important detail. Similarly, in the summer, oftentimes that wastewater is lower than the wet bulb temperature of the outside air, meaning that we can also do less electric work to cool our buildings. And it sounds crazy, but there's actually places that are already doing it. So in DC, there's already been a project that does this, and is also being looked at in Seattle and in other cities. So those are some of the crazier, more radical measures out there, but there's a whole host of options we haven't talked about that are much more likely to be implemented in the next couple of years. The main thing to think about with this new legislation is that every time you take on a new tenant and you're putting on new systems for them, or you're replacing a piece of major infrastructure like a chiller or a boiler, you need to take into account how this legislation impacts that decision when you're thinking through your strategy. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos.